When I had this project, I got very excited to develop something like this. I wanted to be as authentic as possible because it's going to be in a museum. In the same time, I wanted to really show that it's a living craft. It have to be relevant to today's time. It have to really speak to this time. Otherwise, I'm just copying something that was in the past, and it could be a nice piece, but it could be just there, you know. So first, you have the design, and design is based on a geometrical grid that deals with the 4-fold and 8-fold grid. So you can see the 4-pointed star, and you have the octagon, and there's this underlying grid that is based on a 45-degree angle, and it can be used as well as a 90-degree angle. But you can see here, the thing is from designing it and seeing the opening, and how can you determine the thickness of wood when you do the screens. So in this drawing, you will see that this is a one strip, this is another strip, but you can see the two opposing. It's one in red, front side and the back side. So when you have this joint here and you have another one placed on top, that's what gives you the overlap joint of the screen. So the idea is with those grid, there's a beautiful proportion between the thickness of wood and the unit pattern here. The circle is always the maintainer of this proportion. You can see it very clearly. And once we develop this drawing, each one of those units can be also designed once you learn the geometrical pattern of it. So you can see here that you have a different variation of designs from the octagon and 4-pointed star, and they all share the same structure, but then it manifests itself to different variations of pattern. So how can we take the drawing now to the actual wood? Okay, so tradition, how is it done before? They use tools to mark the wood. And first, we need to show the idea of how we can get those squares and the opening for the joints to cut it. Something similar to this one here. So first, we get the marking gauge, and you can see it's already inscribed in the wood. So this is the distance, which is this distance here. And then afterwards, you used to use tools like that to mark. You have two different sizes. So you have the size of the square here and the size of the opening. So let's say first we start with this. And it was a technique that you use to mark, so you know the sizes is always consistent. So you have the square, big square and a small square. It's always something just to get a little bit of the mark, so you can see in the wood which size is which. So after you have those openings here, we need to have the square. So this is a perfect square. So now we have the joint that's going to be cut, which is this part, and you have the square piece, which is this one here. And then to determine the cuts, some of those angles within a specific shape, this one here, this is a specific angle that sits within a square. So we can have that already marked, and you put it in the square here. You have some sort of a guide, and you do the marking. But as you can see, to do this, for all the strip using this, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time and effort. So one way of developing it is we start to go also in the fixed measurement. But that also, we found out in the same time, it will take time to measure each part. So I found a way to cut the specific design that I want on a template like that can be fixed within the squares. Let's say once you get all the cuts based on this, each one of those squares will fit on the pattern. So you know exactly the distance that you need to cut and the shape. So once you put all the drawings on each square, you can see where to cut. You can either take it to the bandsaw cut it on the morso. Or in the chisel, based on each one of those design based on the composition. Those screens are assembled together without using nail or glue. So the cuts have to be very precise, otherwise you will not have this joint perfectly coming in together. So along the time when we're working, we always have to find a way to perfect each cut. So as a group, each one of us focus on a specific cut, and by time you perfect it. That's the craftsman. He is a maker who makes things a beautiful object, but after you do it, after a while, he become crafted at it. He become a craftsman, and that need time and repetition, and to be always conscious and aware of what you do.